So yeah, I mean, this goes on and on. It's the censorship. It's, from hydrochloroquine to medical advice to anything and everything under the sun.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, SGT report has been sidelined by Google essentially, and you're one of those small businesses that's suffering because of this monopoly, and Congress is not acting.
Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here. Thanks so much for tuning in. Before we begin this important interview, just a quick word from this interview's sponsor. As you guys likely know, the keto diet is taking the fitness industry by storm for its benefits in healthy appetite management, energy levels, and mental clarity. However, the keto diet can be difficult to follow. That's why Keto Elevate was made. Keto Elevate powerfully supports ketone production, whether you follow the keto diet or not. That's right, it can help elevate ketone levels even without the strict no-carb policy. Now, of course, you should probably avoid carbs anyway, but this product will help. There's a 60-day money-back guarantee. Get your own bag for 51% off and free shipping by going to ketowithsgt.com or by visiting the link, which I will leave below this interview. And welcome back, friends. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Hey, I wanted to get back on the line Ryan Hartwig, the Project Veritas Facebook whistleblower, to break down the testimony yesterday before the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Antitrust, the testimony of Mark Zuckerberg, Bezos, Tim Cook, and Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Alphabet. It was a big day, an important day, and I wonder if it's going to amount to anything for we the people in breaking the back of these censorious vipers. Ryan, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sean. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you, my friend. How's life been since we last talked?
It's been pretty good. I've been pretty busy. Done a few interviews. There's a couple that haven't not been released yet that have been filmed. But yeah, yesterday was quite the whirlwind. I was watching the congressional hearing and taking notes. So yeah, but it's been busy but good.
Maybe we should begin with some testimony from Mark Zuckerberg. Let me do a screen share here. It begins with him saying, "Our business model is advertising," which really resonated with me because essentially that's the business model of any news organization, for instance, in my case, SGT Report, to have any advertising via YouTube. So it's interesting. We know what their business model is, and they don't want anybody else to have access to the same business model. So listen to Mark Zuckerberg try to explain how he's no monopoly. Facebook is no monopoly.
The most popular messaging service in the US is iMessage. The fastest growing app is TikTok. The most popular app for video is YouTube. The fastest growing ads platform is Amazon. The largest ads platform is Google.
I'll just pause it right there. Yeah. Well, Amazon's Bezos will be in the House to testify about their monopoly. Sundar Pichai will be in the House to testify about Google's monopoly. I'd like to know where Susan Wojcicki was, the CEO of YouTube. I would love to hear her testimony. What did you make of what you saw yesterday? And did you get a chance to even watch that much of it? It went on forever.
Yeah, I did watch a large chunk of it. I got tired of Tim Cook telling us how many apps he has on his Apple Store. I think 1.7 million. He probably said that 10 times.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as Zuckerberg's testimony, because that's what was most relevant to me, because I used to work, as a content moderator, and Matt Gaetz asked him about, the Project Veritas video that I was featured in. And I provided evidence. I, filmed with a hidden camera for many months. And so his response basically was, yeah, I do acknowledge that some people made some mistakes. We're going to do some more training. That's essentially, to paraphrase him, that's essentially what he said. But he just reinforced these talking points that had nothing to do with, didn't relate to our investigation. Facebook's committed to having a forum for open to all ideas. And they really didn't, it was just these bland talking points. And this is the day after, Donald Trump Jr. was censored and silenced for sharing a hydrochloroquine video. And that was on all the platforms, Facebook, Twitter. So, I didn't see a very good response from Mark Zuckerberg. But we are, this is breaking right now, I'll send you an email. We are, the three of us, myself, Zach McElroy, and Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower, are releasing an open letter in the next couple hours, with our response to yesterday's hearing. Yeah, so there wasn't much said. We didn't spend as much time on censorship as I would have liked. It was more on antitrust. But yeah, overall, I think there was a lot of talking points. There was a lot of "I'll get back to you." So that was my synopsis of what happened.
Now, I noted that Twitter's Jack Dorsey wasn't there. I think he was asked to be present, and perhaps he declined. Is that accurate?
I'm not sure. I know there's a little bit of back and forth where he was going to be there and then he wasn't. So I'm not exactly sure what happened with his attendance, but yeah, I think that would have been a good opportunity. I think if he was there, they would have, talked to him about, censoring the hydrochloroquine videos. And it's funny because they did actually yesterday talk about certifying fact checkers. Facebook, I think, said they have like 70 companies and they certify companies as fact checkers. So it's ironic because they can certify fact checkers, but by censoring doctors speaking about treatment for COVID, they're essentially decertifying medical doctors.
Yeah, and I think one of their fact checkers is Snopes. Is that accurate?
That fact checking, we didn't really do that. We did a lot of different areas of content moderation. We did in the same building I worked in, there was a group of Cognizant employees who worked on basically ads, like categorizing ads. It's called brand safety. So we worked on that. We had a specific queue just for hate speech. But something in the letter that we're releasing in a couple hours, something that I wrote, talks about Mill's harm principle. So John Stuart Mills talked about this, and Facebook has this actual principle as part of their guidelines, as part of the spirit of their own policy. So they mention that, but they don't follow it. So with the Mills harm principle, there's harm and there's offense. So like harm is something that would cause imminent, real world harm. So if I say, hey, I'm going to go shoot this person, for example, that would be a speech that would fall under the category of harm. But the other category is an offense. So an offense, according to John Stuart Mills, is something that would hurt our feelings. And that's the grand majority of the things that I deleted over the course of 2 years at Facebook were offenses, things that would hurt our feelings. And so according to John Stuart Mills, offenses are less serious and should not be prevented. So that's what it comes down to is, look, like they're censoring speech, they're silencing speech. And so, that's some of the takeaways from the hearing. Do you have any other questions about?
Well, I wanted to ask you, the reason I brought up Snopes and fact-checking is because in the case of the doctors in the hydroxychloroquine video, the testimony that it works by doctors willing to put their lives on the line, essentially, their reputations, because the mainstream media dragged them through the mud immediately, trying to disparage their characters. Snopes, what business would Snopes have fact-checking anything coming from a medical doctor? The two bozos that launched Snopes originally, this husband and wife that have since gotten divorced, and then I think he married a stripper. I mean, it's just incredible what these companies will embrace as truth sources, as trusted sources, and what they will reject as misinformation. Google took Breitbart off their returns list. So if you type in Breitbart, not Breitbart.com, but say you just want to do a search for Breitbart, or think of any news item you might care about, the doctor's hydroxychloroquine. The Breitbart.com site will not come up in a Google search. At least it didn't the other day. Now maybe they've been forced to fix that. But do this, Ryan. Type in SGT report, not the .com, just SGT report.
I'm doing it right now.
My 10-year-old website, sgtreport.com, which was once a top 7,000 website in the United States, will not come up in Google returns. Now go do the same thing at Bing. At Bing, the first return will be sgtreport.com. Google is gaming the system to an extent that it's literally criminal, in my view, and I'm glad that the House Subcommittee on Antitrust is trying to do something. It's not enough, but here's a glimmer of hope. You tell me what you thought of this news.
Okay.
Screen share here. Congressman Matt Gaetz files criminal referral against Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, July 27th. I think this is important. What did you make of this news? It had to cause an awkward moment, I would think, at least between Zuckerberg and Gaetz yesterday.
Yeah, so that came out on Monday, and that was huge news. And this is something I'm really excited about. So prior to even the original video release with Project Veritas, I had been connected with Congressman Matt Gaetz, and they knew of the Project Veritas, release. So I gave Congressman Matt Gaetz in his office additional documentation. I mean, we're talking about huge PowerPoints, lots and lots of files, screenshots, video footage from the video from what I documented. So it appears that documentation helped allow Congressman Gaetz to submit that criminal referral. So I'm really excited about that. It's really I'm humbled, and it's an honor to be part of that, because what I supplied them allowed them to create that criminal referral. So hopefully that makes some headway, and they can make some progress and actually do something with it. Gaetz, it was pretty awkward yesterday. He didn't get to ask as many questions as he wanted to, probably. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's a lot of questions that remain unanswered that they really need to stick it to him and ask those hard questions. And when they bring out some of the evidence that I provided, I think it's going to be harder for Zuckerberg to dodge those questions. And real quick, with reference to COVID-19, so at Facebook, we had a policy that somewhat dealt with misinformation with regards to medical procedures. So the policy we did have was called regulated goods. Under that policy, we regulate, firearms, selling pharmaceutical drugs. So you can't sell pharmaceutical drugs peer-to-peer. We also regulated like those weight loss gimmicks where it's like a spam video or a little GIF where it says lose 20 pounds in 3 days, and we know those are kind of a spam, of course. So that's the only policy I can think of that would relate to misinformation. But in Mark Zuckerberg's written testimony that he provided before the hearing, on page 4, he says, "We connect people to authoritative health information, and we're taking aggressive steps to stop COVID-19 related misinformation and harmful content from spreading." So, I mean, when they say authoritative health information, what does that mean? I guess that just means the WHO. So that doesn't include in their definition like certified medical doctors. So that's something that's really, really tough, because I don't really see a part of their policy, their Facebook policy. I mean, if you look at the Mills harm principle, what if someone is going to be cured by hydrochloroquine, and because of Facebook, they don't reach out and get that treatment? That could cause harm as well.
Yeah, it's really scary. This is getting to the point of being really, really scary, because these companies wield so much power. I didn't actually realize that Google controls or benefits from, I think it's 94% of all search goes through Google. I mean, that'll tell you how powerful, what a behemoth they are. And the second most popular website in the world is YouTube. Now, YouTube has said the same thing about authoritative sources. They want to weed out what they deem misinformation. They changed their algorithms. Google began changing algorithms in 2017. The folks at Breitbart just put out information showing a chart of what happened to their website when those algorithms changed. The same thing happened to sgtreport.com. The incoming traffic, organic traffic, people that found us by way of our articles being out there, plummeted. In the case of Breitbart, more than 99% of that traffic went away, meaning the only way you were going to get to Breitbart is by typing in Breitbart.com directly. Yeah. So they're gaming the system. We've got to take the globalist talking points on everything. They don't want debate in a public square. And they'll say that anything, any free speech that doesn't fall in line with their globalist worldview and talking points, they will deem disinformation or misinformation, and they will shadow ban it or delete it. And I can't think of anything more tyrannical than that. So how do we fix this? Is it even possible to be fixed as long as the Democrats control Congress?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday it was disappointing to see. Well, I'm glad that Jim Jordan did, try to fight, and he made some good points. And then you saw the Democrats attack what he said as a conspiracy fringe theories, referencing our investigation with screenshots, and so it's and then Rep. Sennenheimer, I believe, the older guy, he kind of capitulated and he said, "Oh, we shouldn't punish businesses for being successful. Like, this isn't success. This is, like you said, this is tyranny." So he basically said, "Well, we don't need to change any of the antitrust regulation." Now, there is an argument to be had in the leaked document from Mike Cernovich, the Jim Jordan memo, there were some talking points there. And on page 10, it says, they talk about how antitrust won't solve political bias. And there's a point to be had, because if you add more regulation, you end up favoring the people who are already there. It says, if you do use antitrust, new regulations may fortify large social media companies, as has happened in other industries, when regulation actually strengthened the entities it was designed to check. So that's a good point. So antitrust might not be the way to go. There's an article from zerohedge.com, and I can send this to you, that talks about some of the data that Congress needs to regulate social media. So I think that's a step in the right direction. And they mention having a database of violating tweets, a database of any violations, a demographic database of content removals, a database of exempted posts. So yeah, just increased access to Facebook's fact-checking database. So I think that might be a step in the right direction, but it is pretty difficult. I mean, if I know there was an executive order on Monday or yesterday, and there's also some new legislation proposed by Paul Gosar of Arizona. So I think those might be, if there is a way to do that with an executive order where they can change the wording of Section 230 and maybe define the words the right way. So I think the word, some of those words that they use in the law in Section 230 are very vague. So if we can use another word that's a little more narrow and specific, that would help.
Okay. Yeah, and I want to do another screen share here in a second. We'll turn our attention to our president. But just imagine, in the case of SGT report, at one point, because of organic natural growth in a level playing field, the website was in the top 7,000 websites in terms of traffic in the United States. People hunger for this information. They were turning away from the mainstream media. Then Google, which controls 94 or more % of the world's search, they game the system. They change the algorithms to make that traffic go away. Now, Google is a monopoly. They're beating up on the little guy, and that is, in my view, tortious interference. It's Google interfering in my relationship with the people that were trying to seek out the content that we were providing and still provide at SGT Report. It's a crime. It's shocking to me, Ryan, that we live in a country where the Democrats cheer crime, they defend crime, they love Antifa. At Facebook, at Twitter, at YouTube, if you have a Christian view and you suggest to people who aren't Christian that maybe abortion in the 9th month is a bad idea, maybe you should put the baby up for adoption, that's offensive, and it might get flagged or taken down at Facebook. It's just, you and I talked about this last time. They'll allow any blasphemy of Jesus all day long. But if you want to put up a video about pro-life or a pro-life picture or a pro-life meme or an anti-abortion meme, you're probably going to get flagged. I mean, this is, you want to talk about a brave new world? It's absolutely shocking to me. I think the Democrats present a clear and present danger, an existential threat to this country. Donald Trump, July 29th. If Congress doesn't bring fairness to big tech, which they should have done years ago, I will do it myself with executive orders. In Washington, it's been all talk and no action for years, and the people of our country are sick and tired of it. Boy, let's heart that one, and let's heart and retweet that one, because I am sick and tired of it. And the Democrats don't care. The Democrats aren't going to do anything. Now, didn't the president issue an executive order about this very same issue a month or two ago?
Yeah, there was an executive order, and that was in, let's see here. That was about a month ago.
Because to your point, what executive order could he issue that's going to make these damn big tech tyrants do anything different? I mean, I guess the biggest thing he could do is sign an executive order that would change the language or something to the degree that then people like me could sue them for what they've done to my platform. I could join with Breitbart. I could join with others who have been damaged and that can quantify the financial damage these tyrants have done to us, and then we can sue them for damages. I just want a level playing field, Ryan.
Yeah. Basically, that executive order was from May 28th, roughly. So here's an article from TechCrunch.com. On Thursday, President Trump signed an executive order targeting the legal shield that internet companies rely on to protect them from liability.
Section 230.
Section 230. So here we go. Yeah, I'm on whitehouse.gov. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution, free speech is the bedrock, the growth of online platforms. Online platforms are engaging in selective censorship. In the executive order from May 28th, Trump said, Twitter now selectively decides to place a warning label on certain tweets in a manner that clearly reflects political bias. At the same time, online platforms are invoking inconsistent, irrational, and groundless justifications to censor or otherwise restrict American speech. So basically, he's attempting to clarify Section 2 here, Section 230 here, and he says protections against online censorship. So he basically, I think he's just kind of trying to clarify Section 230. Obviously, you can't change the wording from an executive order of Section 230, but he addresses, these issues of publisher versus platform. This was the law from 1996 gave these companies like Facebook protections as a good Samaritan to block harmful content. And the key there is the word harmful. So that's the word that's very, very vague and open to interpretation. So if we can use another word that's less vague, I think that would help us as we try to address this legal dilemma that Facebook's used as a loophole. And now that they're a monopoly and there's really not much competition, there's really no use for that kind of language from Section 230.
Well, and here's the problem. Here's the problem with language. When your moral compass is completely screwed up or upside down, harmful content in the view of somebody who's a Satanist is going to be Christian speech. Harmful content in the view that somebody who's a pedophile is going to be anybody that criticizes pedophilia. Maybe that's why these platforms allow troubling videos of little boys dressed up like girls dancing in bars with other adult men, and then come after those of us who want to expose the plague of child sex trafficking, because their moral compass is completely screwed up. So the word harmful is actually really a good word in my view, because to me harmful content would be anything pedophilic in nature. You don't want pornography on these websites. We don't want it on YouTube. We don't want it on the internet, frankly, but it's out there, but we don't want it on Facebook. Harmful content, that phrase, when interpreted by somebody with a terrible moral compass, is obviously going to be flipped against we the people, those who stand for truth, justice, and liberty. And that's what's so disgusting about these creepy tech tyrants.
Yeah, the word offensive, the word harmful. I think the word offensive as well is actually in the word the law. And I'm looking at a post right now that I shared, something I shared that with Matt Gaetz's office. And this post is from September 12th of 2018. Yeah. It says, Facebook is beginning to investigate the presence of far-right extremists and extremist terrorist groups outside of the U.S. on Facebook and Instagram, when we need to understand what content reviewers for the North American market are seeing at the ground level. And so they want us to, collect job IDs and find trends of that happening. So it's funny because they're looking at, globally for far-right extremism, but in their own backyard, Antifa is doing the same thing, but they have a specific guidance to not label Antifa as a terrorist group. And here's something that I didn't share with you last time as well. I mean, as far as lumping Trump supporters in with as racists, this is a post from August 14th of 2019. It says, an image of 3 KKK members in uniform, but one is pink instead of white, with a caption making a joke about mixing their robes and MAGA hats in the laundry. And the action for this is to ignore. This is expressing a political comparison by implying that Trump supporters are also a part of the KKK. So, I mean, the policy for dangerous orgs doesn't allow any mention of racist groups or hate groups such as the KKK, but here they're allowing this because it's a political comparison. So, I mean, this is a meme, but once again, this is lumping, Trump supporters and basically implying that they're racist. So yeah, I mean, this goes on and on. It's the censorship. It's, from hydrochloroquine to medical advice to anything and everything under the sun.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, SGT report has been sidelined by Google essentially, and you're one of those small businesses that's suffering because of this monopoly, and Congress is not acting. All
right. Well, to round out the conversation and just put an exclamation point on it, people need to understand, and I think they do, and here's what's tragic about it. When these mainstream media mockingbirds and the big tech companies prop up Antifa and they support these essentially Bolshevik movements to destroy our nation, it's really, really sad because they want to usher in pretty much what's going on in China. Again, Facebook, not really pro-Christian, not really going to stand for the Christian tweets and the pro-life tweets, happy to stand on the other side. Same with Google, same with YouTube. Look what's going on in China. China forces Christians to replace images of Jesus Christ with communist leaders. Authorities have recently destroyed religious symbols by force in churches in multiple provinces, according to a U.S.-based news site. At the end of the day, I think what really, really troubles all of us, Ryan, is that these young people that are ripping these cities apart and tearing down these statues and lighting fires and rioting, they have no idea what's coming if this system is rolled out here. They have no idea what they're involved with, the evil that they are involved with, and the evil that will be reaped on our country if they're allowed to have their way. I mean, God help us. If these big tech companies rig the election, which is essentially what they're doing, because if you can't get news from Breitbart and you can't get news from other conservative sites organically through Google, you're going to end up getting your news from CNN and Washington Post and New York Times, which is what they want. If they steal the election, if they rig the election, and God forbid these demonic Democrats take control of the Senate and get into the Oval Office, really game over for this country, man. Yeah. This is an existential threat to our way of life. And we're, 90 days out from the election?
Yeah, it's, we'll see in the next 90 days what happens. I mean, it's going to be tough. Yeah, if we lose the presidency, it's going to be really, really tough. And, I mean, it's just amazing to see these, I don't know what, like these mayors of cities like Portland, Ted Wheeler, basically asking the federal government to leave and asking them, hey, why are you here? You're causing violence. Well, we're here because you're destroying federal buildings.
And so because the violence has continued for 5-6 weeks now?
Yeah.
7 weeks? It's just out of control. These Democrats, I was on a radio show last night and the host, Jacker, is extremely concerned that Trump is going to lose. And I just kind of pushed back a little bit saying, unless they rig the election, how could that even be possible? Because even if you're a Democrat with just a shred of decency and you live in one of these war-torn cities where Democrats have been in control for so long, you have to be really angry, I would think. Who would want these people reelected? Who would want Joe Biden, who can't string a sentence together, to be president? It just doesn't add up.
Yeah, I think the riots are backfiring. I think in Seattle, the mayor just announced that the police cannot use, I believe, pepper spray or tear gas. So the police chief sent a letter saying, hey, we can't be out there. It's too risky for our officers to be out there. So nothing is being done against these protests. So I think a lot of taxpayers are upset and are not happy with the Democrats. So I think this is backfiring on the Democrats.
Yeah, all right. Well, I sure hope so. I mean, I sure pray so. I mean, I don't believe they're phony polls, I can tell you that much. The same phony polls we got when they said Hillary Clinton was going to win in a landslide. Yeah. Ryan, thank you so much. I really appreciate you and your voice. You're a good guy, and you're very accessible. So anybody else out there who has a show, a YouTube channel, if you want to get in touch with Ryan, get in touch with me, and I can help you do that. Or how would they get in touch with you directly, and how do we support you, Ryan?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me. You can find me on Twitter. I'm also on Gavin Parler. I think it's the same hashtag at Real Ryan Hartwig, also RyanHartwig.org. And my GoFundMe is still up. They haven't taken it down yet. Good. It's GoFundMe.com/Facebook Insider. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me. My DMs are always open. I'd love to chat with anybody.
The other thing you might want to consider if you're going to make this your life's work, and I don't know, maybe you're going to get back into tech or maybe you're going to get back into some other career, but you should maybe get on Patreon. And if everybody pitched in $1 or $2 a month, that can be a real lifeline to help you pay your rent and stuff. So let us know how we can help in the future, and please stay in touch.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. Guys, our guest has been Ryan Hartwig. He's the Project Veritas Facebook whistleblower. We really appreciate all your work, Ryan. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and a special thank you to our patrons who are helping to keep us in this fight for real news. And guys, for real news, Since Google won't bring it up in a search, please go to sgtreport.com directly for real news 24/7. God bless, guys. Bye-bye.
Now, this is really horrible. And as you said, the Dark Ages, they were in the medieval times. We always tell our kids, but actually that's a lie. The Dark Ages are now.